By the way, I'm deliberately using the same photos over and over again to show different approaches so that we're not thinking that, oh, well, this photo only lends itself to this type of selection method. I'm trying to show you how you can try different kind of methods on different types of images. So, as we saw with this particular image, because of the nature of what we're doing, the color range commands seem to be a pretty good one. So let's try something. We're going to duplicate the background layer because I want to be able to compare some of our options here. So on this one, I'm going to use color range. Click up in the blue, push the fuzziness, and then hold down the Shift key and get our extra areas. Try and find the kind of happy medium. Click OK. Inverse the selection, but instead of popping it up onto a layer like I did before, I'm going to click on this Add Layer Mask button. Now you won't be able to see anything until I hide the background, but now you can see we've got what looks like the layer with a transparent background, but what we really have is a mask that we can turn on or off. And the reason this becomes important, let's do this. Let's put a layer below, and again we'll just choose white and fill that with white. Now we can start to see a few little problems here and there. Well, if we zoom in close to see what we've got, we can start to see some of the areas where, for example, some of the blue in here is a little sneaking through there a little bit. Well, that's okay because now I can work on the mask. So let's take a paintbrush, get myself a small brush with some opacity, or I should say a feathered edge and some opacity, and I want to hide these little bits of blue in there. So as I start painting, now it's probably still that opacity a little too high. Let's put it even lower. What this lets me now do is I can start to just kind of do some extra bits of manual masking on top, and that's the benefit that using a mask has over just the basic selection. If you don't like the selection, you're pretty much stuck with it. I've zoomed way in so you can see this, so it might start to look a little unrealistic, so at a certain point you may choose to zoom back out and see what you're getting. But let's also look up here at the top. Okay, I zoomed it a little close there. Same thing here. I may decide that there are some areas that I might still see a little bit of hair. I want a little more detail in there, so I'm going to press X. I still have a low opacity, but this is going to let me just kind of fine-tune it a bit and try and pull out a bit more of that detail. So that's one of the various reasons why it's not a bad theory to take your selection and turn it into a mask, because then it gives you that little bit of extra opportunity of playing with it. The other advantage of using a layer mask is once it's been created, it's basically a selection waiting to happen. So you notice in this case, I kept the original background photo, I put a layer in between, and now I have this top layer copied with the layer mask. Well, if I ever need to make a selection out of it, this is still a mask. Look at it. It's still that black and white mask idea. So all I'd have to do is Command or Control click on it, and that's made my selection. So now if I needed to, I could come back to this layer, duplicate it on a layer by itself based on that mask information. So anytime you see that black and white information of a layer mask, it means it can be reused very easily. For example, let's use another example. I want to experiment to see what would happen if I just tried changing the color of the background. So I'll use an adjustment layer like Hue Saturation, start to change the hue, and as you can see, it's unfortunately changed the color of everything because that's just the way that hue saturation works. Well, if I go back to my layer, say I really want to use this layer mask, I'm going to hold down Option or Alt, drag it and drop it on top of here. It'll ask me to replace it. I'll choose yes, and now it's applied it so it's only affecting the area that I want. Now right now it's the wrong way around because the mask I copied was black and white based on selecting her. I need to be the other way around, so I press Command or Control I to invert, and there we go. Now we've got the mask looking the way I want. I'm still seeing little bits of blue, so I could still tweak the mask. And one of the things we'll be talking about shortly is how to edit this mask even further. We could certainly paint on it and adjust it, but we can also go a step further with refining the edge. And we'll see that in the next session. So up to now, everything I've been talking about is different selection techniques to end up with a great selection. I'm going to suggest to you that very often a very good step to take next is to turn that selection into a mask. Now, the reason, as we've said, for doing this is just gives you a huge amount of flexibility and reusability. So you can reuse the same mask in different ways, as we just saw. The other thing that you should know about is that you may decide, for your own reasons, not to do that. You may just decide that what you really want to do is you've made a selection and you just want to save that selection for further use. So one of the ways we can do that is to use the Save Selection command. It's going to come up with this dialog box. It's suggesting it's going to make a new channel. So I'll click OK and then deselect. If I look in my Channels palette, now I have, there's the mask I just created. If I look at it, it's the same kind of mask. It's just saving it in the document. So that's kind of a little bit different because we're not actually applying it as a layer mask, but we're still kind of saving the mask as a channel. Still has that same black and white information that we can load anytime as a selection by Command or Control clicking on it, or if we don't even see that, we could go to the Select menu, choose Load Selection, and then find our alpha channel, which is really the name alpha channel. Just simply means it's the additional channel that you created by choosing Save Selection. So it's kind of the same thing in a sense of how the mask looks, but the difference is the channel mask, or the alpha channel, is saved away for you to load in if you need it. A layer mask will actually have an influence on the layer it's attached to, and you can edit it, or as we'll see next, we can refine that mask to play with it even further.